Columnists are back. Sam Mellinger and Vahe Gregorian talk Chiefs on SportsBeat KC, presented by Big O Tires. It's Wednesday, February 12th, and I'm your host, Blair Kirchhoff. We haven't been together since the day after the Super Bowl, so Sam, Vahe, and I opened by talking Chiefs parade and its deeper meaning to Kansas City beyond recognizing a football championship. After a break, Sam and Vahe get into some of the financial challenges of keeping the Super Bowl winning Chiefs together for a repeat run. And Sam comes up with a creative way of keeping free agent Chris Jones in Kansas City and allowing him to sign the lucrative deal he deserves. It's good stuff. So off we go with the Stars sports columnists. Sam, Vahe.
What's up, Blair?
Hey, Blair.
It occurs to me that we haven't had a discussion. We haven't met like this since the Super Bowl, the day after the Super Bowl. Am I right about that? Is that right? We didn't.
I think that's fact.
I think that's fact, and we have not been here in the lavish home studio for even weeks before that.
Palatial studio.
Palatial.
I think. Oh, it's fantastic. And the sound equipment, I think, is par excellence. I mean, it is state-of-the-art stuff here that I'm looking at and not speaking into. So maybe somebody can show me how someday, and we'll have the this will sound a lot better.
Our transparency is just such a highlight of our shows.
We're so transparent that although this podcast is running on Wednesday, we're recording it Tuesday afternoon. That's how transparent we are. We are in the media, and we are transparent.
I'm looking through you, Blair. You're so transparent.
Vahe, last time I saw you, you were, about 60 feet above street level?
Where was that?
Across the street at Messenger Coffee.
Sorry, that seemed like a long time ago.
It did seem like a long time.
It was, and I don't think we've had a chance to completely show the blood and guts of the operation, but the main point there is that it was about 100 yards away, 60 feet up, and 8 miles around to get there because of the parade route taking a little bit of a twist after the incident that morning.
But some quick thinking on the part of Chris Fickett and some others got us to
Sam McDowell.
Sam McDowell, of course, took charge. The kid, just took charge.
Junior.
But Sam, I wanted to ask you about your parade experience because you got to enjoy it in a way that I thought was perfect.
Yeah, it was cool. So as it happens, my soon-to-be 6-year-old is just flat out obsessed with football, and there was no way that we weren't going to go to this parade.
Gets that from his mom, I think, right?
Right, exactly. So so the four of us, Katie and the kids, we all went down there, and it was cool. It was cold, but it wasn't as cold as I thought it was going to be, and it was probably colder where you guys were up on a roof. It's a big crowd, so there's body heat and stuff like that, and it was fun. I mean, everybody is in a great mood, obviously. There was one woman who came up, and I didn't know how the kids would react. It was like Sammy and he had a couple of his buddies with him, but she just came up and got down on their level. So she's a grown woman, probably 5'8", 5'9", whatever, and these are 5 and 6-year-olds. And she just bent down with him and just goes, oh, just chops right in front of her.
Yeah, let the record show that Sam is chopping.
And they just kind of stunned, what the hell is going on? I've never seen this one, So that was a good moment. But they had a blast. It was, it's all the stuff about a championship parade through a kid's eyes, right? It's the players that he's watched on TV. And now they're not in a helmet. They're not in a uniform. They're on top of a bus and, having fun. It was fun. It was great.
Where'd you guys set up shop?
So we were actually a block from me. I saw you guys on top of Messenger. We were at 16th or 17th or whatever. I thought about taking a picture of you guys and zooming in and sending it to you. And I was like, they're working.
It would have been fun if you threw a football up to us up on the roof.
That would have been a hell of a throw.
It would have been a bit of a heave, but maybe would have crossed traffic with all the balls being thrown to and from Patrick.
Yeah.
I take it. I can't remember if you were still at that spot, but we felt like we were kind of in a fortunately special place because that bus stopped.
It did.
Truck, whatever it was, a long time there.
Very long time. Yep.
And I think I have not been able to sort of do the Zapruder film on this, but I think that's the place where the ball must have been thrown that the guy ran into the parking meter from.
It might have been. I didn't put two and two. Yeah.
Because I think if you look at the background of the video, I think it's the old Star building. I think. I'd have to look again. Don't want to commit to that, but at any rate, we saw him we saw a lot of the interaction, and it was pretty cool. And so, did you bring JB too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So did they get a view? Did they see some Patrick action?
Yeah, up on shoulders, you can get some height.
That's right.
So yeah, I mean, like, look, like, you know, the younger one, he'll be 4 in April. I don't think he really I think he thought it was cool that there was this big crowd, right? And he had his friends there, and that was cool. But it was just, look, like, you know, one of the being able to see some of these things like through a kid's eyes is just really cool. And the other thing that stood out, and I think this is probably true of the Royals Parade as well. I know it was true of the Royals Parade. The coolest thing about these parades to me has been that it really looks like fans are having as much fun as the players, as the people. Like, and it is a very much a joint experience. Whereas a game is one group performing and the other group kind of cheering on and screaming and encouraging and all that stuff, right? That's how these things go. But the parade is just both groups enjoying the moment together and mutually, and that's guys on the bus. I know some people had a problem with this, but guys on the bus throwing a beer to somebody in the crowd, people in the crowd throwing a beer to somebody on the bus, somebody throwing a football to Andy Reid, he throws it back. Somebody throws a football to Patrick Mahomes, he throws it back. That person runs into a parking meter. But like there's just it was very much, it was just a very interactive experience that I don't know when are the other times that you get something like that.
One of the things you make me think of, and this is something you've spoken to, I think, a little bit on Twitter. I didn't get to see this week's Mellinger Minutes. You might have gotten into it there, but to me, that was part of the thing to really appreciate and enjoy about this. That it's interactive. You're sharing it. Those players, by being as emotional and stimulated in various ways as they were bringing Chiefs fans into their world. They were just in a different way than you'd experience. I recognize that some people thought that was a bit much, but I just can't feel troubled in any way by it. It's just such a release. And I do wonder, though, I'm bringing it up to you as a father of 2 young boys. I don't think you were bothered by like that they saw that maybe they can't process it exactly what it was, but I don't think that bothered you in any way, did it?
Not at all. And I'm not saying like I'm right and other people who are offended are wrong. And you know, look, our kids are basically like almost 4, almost 6. If they were 10 and 12 or 14 and 16 or I don't know, maybe I'll think differently, you know, after Super Bowl 64 parade, you know, that we had. But I just, this gets into a whole other show that we could do, right, about athletes as role models and the role that we have as parents and as a society to present athletes as whole people and not just, you know, everything they do is right and we should follow that. Like, you know, I think it's an opportunity for conversations and all that stuff. But more than all that, they were having fun. And it wasn't exclusive. It wasn't how am I trying to word this? It very much felt to me like players were inviting fans into their party. And it wasn't, you know, again, in a game, it's sort of they're doing it. They're doing all the stuff. And that's awesome, and that's where the cameras are, and that's how it should be. And the fans on the outside are cheering. And this very much felt like the players saying, hey, man, we're going to have a hell of a time. Hope you come and be part of this with us. And I got the same sense, you know, 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago, when the Royals did it, is this. And it's just, I really don't know that there's another time that you get that. They do events in the community and all that stuff, but it's not this. It's not a party like this.
Yeah.
Not only is there not another time where, you know, the team or the athletes get to associate with their fans this way, there's no other time in the history of a city, an occasion where everyone's on the same page about the supporting a civic enterprise.
Yeah.
There's nothing else like this today in our society that you can liken to a championship parade in which hundreds of thousands of people. What else brings hundreds of thousands of people into a downtown for a big party?
Yeah, and
Times Square, New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
You know, what else is like this?
Yeah, and not to like make this bigger than it needs to be, but I felt that, and I felt it in 2015 as well. These are divisive times, right? Politically, Kansas City has always been split between Missouri and Kansas and KU and Mizzou, and there's a million reasons for people to feel divided. But it really is, I mean, just on that block, like where we're sitting, I mean, you look around and everybody there has different beliefs or comes from different parts of town or whatever, and it's just none of that matters. None of it matters. There was a bigger cause. It was amazing. It was so cool.
You were really in the crowd the whole time. We had a little bit of sort of walking through and getting a little stranded and stuff, but you did feel that, for lack of a better term, just diversity. You felt like you could see every socioeconomic, you could see various races. I mean, it was kind of cool that way. And we just got a glimpse of that, but I think it was something that anybody in the city would feel drawn to, and certainly people avoided it because it's chaos. Yeah. But any sort of person in the city, to your point, Blair.
We should say like that happens to some level every Sunday, right? Like at Arrowhead, Blair, you said there's a Kansas lot and a Missouri lot, and I like that. But once you get inside the stadium, everybody's sort of on the same team, and the guy next to you may be wearing a KU stocking cap, and yours may be Mizzou, but you're on the same team and all that. But you're still spending $100 to get in there on a ticket.
Right.
I think there's something to be said for that. Everybody can bring their kids if you want, and if you think they can handle it and all this stuff. And it is free. I do wonder, Vahe, I wonder if people, hundreds of thousands of people there, but if it wasn't what some people expected, I wonder what portion of that was 30 degrees and predicted snow, and what portion of that was, it seemed like city officials were basically saying, you better get here by midnight the night before, or don't even think about showing up. And I think some people probably got turned away by that.
I think they learned from the 2015. There were some lessons to be learned from the 2015 Royals parade.
It was so much better organized. My God. And I don't say that, like, I thought some of the Royals parade was like endearing, of people like parking on the freaking highway and then walking from there.
Well, I tell you what, though, when we
were so much better organized.
It was, but still, so I live a couple and a half miles, maybe about 3 miles away, and near where the Costco is, the Linwood Costco. I'm driving, and immediately I see $50 parking there. Not at Costco, but across the street.
No
$50
kidding.
parking. And hundreds of people walking from there. Maybe that was part of the lesson. Rather spend that half hour walking than sitting in, a concentric circle of nothingness. But also when Chris Fickett drove us, Blair and me and Sam McDowell, around the perimeter to get to the other side. Remember up by, was that on Linwood? Was it Broadway? Broadway and Linwood in there, 31st. Again, that's not close. And cars were all over the grass, but at least they weren't on the highway.
Yeah.
I guess that was the thing.
I was talking with a friend about this morning, actually, about there's some of the identity of both franchises in their parades. Of, the Royals was, I thought, like super personal in a different way, and it was an explosion of energy and all that stuff. And this one was so well, it was just the NFL knows how to throw an event, right? And those maps were distributed, and everybody knew like what streets were going to be blocked off and where to go. And look, and I'm not saying one's better than the other. There's good parts of both, but it made me chuckle about how much better organized this was. And the Royals were just like, look, man, show up. It's gonna be cool.
With the Chiefs, it's you will follow the shrubs.
Exactly.
There will be order. Oh man. Okay, we spent more time on this than I thought. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll get into the future of the Chiefs.
Our biggest tire sale of the year happening now at Big O Tires. Buy 2 tires, get 2 free on select tires in stock. That's 2 tires free when you buy an alignment and tire protection package. That's 50% off tires at Big O Tires. It's going on now, but it all ends soon. Buy 2 tires, get 2 free at all participating Big O Tires.
Installation additional plus shop fee of up to 10% of non-discounted retail price, not to exceed $35. Hurry, sale ends Monday, President's Day.
Hey, it's Blair. Hey, we have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns we have to offer. And it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. For your convenience, your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. A lot of subscription services won't tell you that. They'll just sneak it on there. We just told you. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening. All right, we're back with Vahe and Sam, and the parade is behind us now.
Next play. That's what
We're on to the next parade possibility. And for the Chiefs to get to a next parade, they're going to have to shape a roster, post-Super Bowl roster, with some players that we think might not be here next year that helped them win a Super Bowl. And I go back and forth. Look, it's only about a week and a half since the Super Bowl win, but it just seems like every time I listen to talk radio or any conversation I have about the Chiefs, everybody wants to talk about Chris Jones.
Yeah.
The future of Chris Jones. That says two things. One, it's the Chiefs have some decisions to make with impending free agents, but also how important he is to what happened to the Chiefs this year and just how vital he was in the Super Bowl. So let's kind of set it up. Just at kind of a Cliff's Notes version. I'll get it out of this is the Chiefs are going to commit a lot of money to their quarterback, and it's going to leave them with with an amount of cap space that's not enviable. Something about $20 million, maybe.
I was told in the 20s.
In the 20s, which would make it difficult for them to give Chris Jones a long-term contract. Now, there are options for the Chiefs and Chris Jones. One is to franchise tag him and make him a Chief for next year. Another is to franchise tag him and trade him. There are some options with Chris Jones, but I guess what we're going to find out as the Chiefs work it out with Chris Jones is just how much of the post-Super Bowl, we all want to be back and keep this thing going versus how much of the NFL is a cold, hard business are we going to see here. And I guess it's a long-winded way of asking, is Chris Jones going to be a Chief next year?
Well, one quick thought. I mean, how much would you say other factors are in play, like in terms of, I'm really just making this up, but let's say that will Sammy Watkins be back? How I don't know the ratio of what money goes in cap on his contract, et cetera, but how could that alleviate some of that? Will he be back?
They got $14 million if they cut Watkins, and I think they love Sammy Watkins. Like, he hasn't been maybe worth the contract, but free agent contracts are sort of airport prices. He's been great in the playoffs, but if you can save 14 and then another 7 of dead money that goes away for 2021, I think that's why you have McCole Hardman and Demarcus Robinson is also a free agent. He'll get a raise, but he's not going to make $14 million next year. So I just think that's a position of strength and depth. If you're trying to bring back Chris Jones, and I think the Chiefs legitimately, genuinely, sincerely want Chris Jones back, I don't think you can even pretend that you want to do that if you're going to bring back Sammy Watkins on that deal. And they may ask him to renegotiate or whatever, but then you're kicking the can down the road and you're not saving $14 million. I know that. I think that Chris sincerely wants to be back. I thought that before the way that he acted after the Super Bowl, and he has been effusive about he talks very much about a future of we here, and I think that's sincere, but I think he wants to be back with the Chiefs on a big ass contract. I don't think he wants to be back with the Chiefs on a franchise tag.
So if you look at, I don't know if this really helps define it, but would you make the case that Chris is one of the 2 or 3 most important players on their defense?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Tyron.
Sure.
And Tyron, maybe Frank, maybe Chris.
Yeah, those are the 3.
I don't know. When I frame it that way in my head, I think how instrumental was he in this? Obviously, you look at the other side of the ball too, and what could be, as you put it, a position of strength where you could maybe make some numbers work better. I don't know. I think are pretty dialed into this, Sam. It seems to me they will do everything they can to try to make it work.
Yeah, well,
but it might be limited in how they can do it.
Yeah, the quarterback is going to make just a ton of money, obviously. But one thing, and I want to talk to some people that live in this world. to make sure I'm not just completely off base here. But when you have a 24-year-old that you want to pay a ton of money to, I think you can spread that money around, and look, maybe he just wants a 2-year deal and to do like LeBron, and you go year to year, there's more player power, and he's going to have some pressure from the union. His agent, Chris Cabot, is going to have probably some pressure from other agents about like this is a chance to make a landmark, precedent for other players. So there's always those factors. But I just think about this, like what if he did, you can only spread a signing bonus over 5 years, but what if they did something like 8 years, $320 million, and it would be 40. He'd be the highest paid player. It'd be the biggest contract in league history by far. You could give him the most guaranteed money, by far. But you feel pretty good about giving a 24-year-old who's this good and this talented and this focused and this committed 8 years, and maybe there's a clause in there that if he becomes, outside of the top 3 or 5 highest paid quarterbacks in football, then it opens up a window to renegotiate. I mean, I think there's stuff you can do, and that would allow, my point here is that would allow you to spread that money around even further, and then maybe you can fit in Chris Jones. Because I think that they're in a unique situation. Like, Patrick is going to be the highest paid player in league history, but I think he also sincerely understands that it's in his best interest and what he wants for the Chiefs to not be hamstrung by his contract. And it just seems like when you have two sides that agree, that see things so similarly, that something can be worked out.
How about the idea that, well, first of all, it can't happen until Mahomes' contract, right? I mean, we're not going to. Mahomes' deal is going to come. Yes, yeah. Mahomes' contract is going to come first. And what role does the collective bargaining agreement, play in this? Are we looking at? We're talking about this, less than 10 days after the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. Is this, could, as Clark Hunt told us in Miami, we're looking at a 12 to 15 month, window maybe for Patrick Mahomes. Now, we all kind of didn't roll our eyes, but the antenna went up saying, what does he mean by that? Because it certainly could be done a lot sooner than that. Except you keep hearing, well, collective bargaining agreement has to be settled before any long-term deal is done.
He should say 12 to 15 months. You don't want to put yourself in a corner where you have to make a decision before you have to make a decision, right? But I think people in the front office would be surprised if the deal wasn't done in the first couple months of that 12 to 15 month window, and because if you sign a deal a month from now, that's within 12 to 15 months.
It is indeed.
And Clark would have been, accurate. I just think that Patrick Mahomes breaks every rule on the football field and in situations like this. I understand the CBA, but no matter what that CBA looks like, the Chiefs are going to want Patrick Mahomes on a long-term contract. So I understand, you don't know how much more cap space is going to be available in 2021 versus 2020, and especially 2022 and 2023 and all that stuff. But you still know you want to pay that guy a bunch of money and have him on your team. I understand the CBA is a thing that has to be worked around, but I just think Mahomes is the exception to every rule.
Go ahead, Blair.
I was going to say he's the precedent, is what he is.
Yeah.
He doesn't break rules; he establishes new rules.
Yeah. And then you start, this has nothing to do with Kansas City, but I just wonder, did Deshaun Watson want to get in before Mahomes or, after Mahomes and then just ask for 90% or whatever? I don't know. I don't know how that works.
How unusual would it be if it were to turn out there'd been a lot of negotiating behind the scenes already? I mean, I don't know how this works, what's kosher in that way, but I assume that there's no just one day they just show up and we created a deal. Do we have reason to think that this has been kind of getting worked on for some months?
I assume that. I look like that Alex Smith trade couldn't be done until the first day of the league year, right?
Right.
Therese broke that story about a month before.
Thing at Super Bowl.
Yeah. They can't officially sign anything, and again, I think that most of the time, with free agents, pending free agents, there's not a lot of reason. There's not a lot of motivation on either side to negotiate before the season's over. Because if you agree on a number and the player gets hurt, then the team wants out. If you agree on a number and then the player goes off, and just has a stellar run, then the agent wants more money.
Right.
But again, I just think he's the exception to every rule.
Yeah.
And I assume they've been working at least on framework and, philosophies on what each side wants. I assume they've been doing that for months. If they haven't, I'm not sure they've been doing their job, honestly.
What would let's say that it doesn't work out with Chris Jones? He gets tagged and traded. What's fair compensation for Chris Jones?
I don't know. I've heard like what they gave up. They gave up a first and a second, right, for Frank Clark. Something like that.
It has to be, right, for
Yeah.
such an impact player.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably talking about later in the first round, right? Like a pick 25 to 32, and something to get similar. But yeah, I think that's about what the Chiefs should be asking for.
I can't remember how you phrased this before, but this takes me back. Or it might have been Blair that said it, but part of the thinking in Frank Clark getting that contract this year from the Chiefs and Chris Jones not having that contract was Chris Jones needed to have a Frank Clark, a continuation of what he was doing and show that he was worth that, and seems he has.
Chris Jones, could not have handled this situation, a potential just flammable. If he acted like a baby, if he held out, if when Frank Clark got in, he was like, screw this guy, he got my contract. That could have completely torpedoed this season.
Yeah.
And he acted like just a model professional. He was a model professional. I know he didn't go to OTAs, whatever. He was there first
but
day.
Didn't miss training camp. Right.
The very first day, showed up on time, and not just that, but was focused, was performed. He got hurt, handled that like a pro. Him and Frank seemed to have developed like a legit bond, of working together instead of just one of these intra-team rivalries that could have happened. I mean, it was just he could not have handled it any better. He the whole thing, and then to finish the Super Bowl the way that he did, of batting down passes at the line of scrimmage, he just could not have handled it better from beginning to end.
It is a great point about Chris and Frank, and each of them could have been a little awkward about it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Frank coming in, and Frank kind of refers to the big contract all the time, as a heavy thing, almost like not a burden, but like something that he has to account for almost to his teammates.
Yeah.
And it strikes me now with you saying that probably part of that thinking is informed by his consciousness of Chris Jones.
Yeah.
And it's of interest to me in the context of what you're saying too. Their lockers are right next to each other, and you could absolutely see a really flourishing relationship between them in that, and it couldn't have been that way if Chris weren't generous of mind in that.
Yeah, and the potential was there, right? Like not just the financial. I mean, just the way that humans are incentivized. But they're both big personalities. And, if that thing was gonna blow up, it wasn't gonna blow up like one little tiny firecracker. That was gonna be a bag of dynamite, and it just didn't. They were stronger together. It was really cool.
I'll add this too. Chris Jones had to go from outside to inside. He basically had to switch positions
with the scheme. With
the scheme, and again handled it like a pro, like a true pro.
Yep.
So, all right, let's before we wrap it up, and there's going to be a lot of time to talk about these issues over the next weeks and months. But let's just talk about a couple more players, or some decisions the Chiefs have to make with these players. Let's go to the secondary. Bashard Breeland and Kendall Fuller, the two guys that had interceptions in the Super Bowl, both free agents.
Yeah.
Both do raises. I mean, both are going to get raises. I find it interesting that, and my feeling is we're not going to see both of them with the Chiefs next year. Maybe neither, but I don't think both.
I agree with that. I'm curious what you guys think about this too. But Bashard Breeland fits the profile of a guy that is going to get 3 years, $32 million or something like that. I don't know. I'm just making up numbers.
No, that's what I was thinking.
Somewhere else, that somebody, Super Bowl champion, made plays. They're going to watch the last play of the Patriots game.
How about the Detroit, the Lions game? The 100 yard, biggest defensive player of the year, I think, for the Chiefs.
And Bashard Breeland has been on 2 years of trying to get paid, right? Like this was the plan last year, and he was hurt. This was a prove it deal. He proved it. I think there's some parallels you can draw with Tyrann Mathieu, what he did. when he went from Arizona to Houston, and now his prove-it deal was $7.5 million or something, which is pretty sweet. But then he got paid with the Chiefs after he proved it. I just think Breeland's going to do something like that. Kendall Fuller's really interesting. I don't know what his market is. He's only 24. I think he'll be 25 by the time the season starts. But he's young. But it's just, I don't know what the market is for a guy that's in his contract year got pushed off his position.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe somebody thinks he's 24, he's really talented, he was good in that position, so we'll give him a big contract, or he might have to do a prove-it deal. And I think the Chiefs would be a good place for him to do it, actually. But I don't know. What do you guys think about those? Those two are very interesting.
Let me just say this. I think there was a reason why I tried to interview Kendall Fuller the last few weeks of the regular season. He didn't want to talk.
Yeah.
And I think he was kind of ticked off about having to. Meanwhile, teammates couldn't praise him enough for the approach that he took, and again, it came up with the final statement in the Super Bowl, so that's going to work in his favor.
I really couldn't add anything to that. I think you've brought up everything you would want to be thinking about on this. And having said all that, I feel like it's a little bit of a roll of the dice on either or both. But I think certainly not both back.
Yeah.
I just
like I think with Breeland, like part of it's one of them good problems, right, from the Wire. But like you just have to find the Bashaud Breeland of 2020. Like you got him to perform on a. He was making like 2 or 3. I can't remember. It was a relatively small number, but you just got to find that again. That's the challenge of Brett Veach and his guys.
And look, I will say this, and your logic is perfect on this, but that was a guy who made big plays, and Kendall did a time or two, but Breeland had a little bit of a knack.
He did, yeah, absolutely.
And it does make me wonder if that's as easily replaced, not easily replaced, but as replaceable as. Yeah. As the financial situation might dictate otherwise.
He handled himself like a pro. I mean, there was a time where he was getting flagged every time a ball went up, it seemed like, he had hands all over, and that just kind of went away. It's, and the plays kept coming as the season went on.
But the question with Breeland, it's always been to me, is was he really talking to somebody on the phone at training camp 2 years ago?
So I saw him in New Orleans, actually, for I went down there for this Tyrann Mathieu thing in April or May or whatever it was last year. And I was like, look, like, I want to talk to you about 2 things. I was like, I want to ask you about Tyrann, and we'll get to that. But first, you weren't talking to anybody on that phone. And he was like, I know everybody said that, but he's like, I swear, I think he said it was his agent or his mom or somebody. Like he swore up and down. I still don't believe him.
Some people might not.
He swore that he was on the phone with somebody.
Might not remember what this is all about, right? But it was he was in camp to get a little look-see or vice versa.
2 years ago, right?
Walking through the media parade, and all of a sudden he's on the cell phone as if he couldn't possibly be stopped.
I mean, that phone, there was a chance that phone would have started ringing when it was like next to his head. I don't believe that for a second.
All right, guys. Thanks for the chat. That'll do it for today. Thanks for listening. And a salute to our producers, Derek Donovan and Randy Mason. Thanks, guys. Links to Chief Stories and Mellinger Minutes can be found in the show notes on kansascity.com and the Red Zone Extra app. And if you're not reading Mellinger Minutes, you are missing out. It's like 10 of Sam's columns in one take. It's great stuff. If you like what you heard today, and look, how can you not? Leave us a review and a rating where you can. We'll be back on Thursday with another episode of SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in Kansas City every day.